acting in the ordinary course of duty. These are transactions, Your Honor, that the charge sheet sets out to have occurred on the 11th of October 2016, some 2 years ago, 2016 and 2017. Your Honor, as we apply for bail this morning, we wish that the court notes two things, Your Honor. That the process of acquisition of land and the process of registration of land are intricate processes that are governed by the Land Act 2012 and the Land Acquisition and the Land Registration Act, and specifically, Your Honor, Section 26 of the Land Act.
Well, that's what's currently happening at the Milimani Law Court, where Seth Olale is covering that arraignment of NLC Chairman Muhammad Swazuri, the Kenya Railways Managing Director Atanas Maina, the NLC CEO Tom Chavangi, among other persons. We go back to that story in Mombasa, where the Kenya Primary School Heads Teachers Conference in Mombasa has been brought to a standstill as chaos broke out earlier this morning. The commotion, characterized by shouting and throwing of chairs and bottles, was caused by the 500 shilling the head teachers pay as union fees every month to KEPSHA. Trouble started when some teachers opposed the charge, saying the union leaders had failed to explain how the money is spent. The teachers are demanding for the resignation of KEPSHA chairman Shem Ndolo. But hell broke loose when Ndolo dismissed their opposition, criticism and calls for his quitting nonsense.
Sawa. Sawa. We don't want Ndoro must go. Me, I'm a Kenyan head teacher. Somebody, my salary is being sliced 500 per month. And I was asked to register with 6,000 shillings. Why? Ndoro must not even apologize. Must leave and go forever. And we have said it. He should go. We don't want any apology.
My name is Abdallah Kajimu from Ngodini, a teacher. We are basically not ready for this particular colleague to be returned. Teachers have suffered a great deal, and we are not ready for his apology. So for the meeting to continue, let him go.
Yes.
On behalf of my fellow teachers, yule mtu aende, hatutaki, tumechosha na haya mateso yake, aende nyumbani back. Yeah.
I told him that this meeting is going to be noisy, it's going to be messy, and with a lot of casualties if Ndolo is here.
A new chairman, sir. A new chairman.
A fiery meeting there in Mombasa where the Kenya school heads are gathered, and we have the chairman of the association calling demands for his resignation nonsense. We're back to the Milimani court where the NLC chairman Muhammad Swazuri, his CEO Tom Chavangi, and the Kenya Railways MD Atanas Maina are being arraigned.
And when you see a matter that has conspiracy as a first charge, the court should begin to ask itself questions. You know, this morning, I wish to apply for bail on behalf of the accused person as ordained by Article 49(1)(h) of the Constitution and Section 123(1) and 2 of the Criminal Procedure Code. Bail is a constitutional right, Your Honor, and this has clearly been set out in the case of Rogers Nzioka and 11 others versus Republic. I have supplied my learned friends with copies. I wish to supply the court with copies. Your Honor, This is the decision of Judge Ongudi on appeal on refusal to grant bail by this court. I wish to specifically refer page 13.
Apologies for the quality of that signal. We'll go back to the Milimani Law Courts as that story develops. In the meantime, I'm joined by a very eminent panel of professionals, including right next to me, ladies first, is Bessie Kadhambi, who's a governance consultant with the County Governance Watch. Next to her is Gabriel Mudhuma, who's a political commentator. And next to him is Steve Ogola, who says he should just be identified as an advocate of the High Court. Well, we've seen what's happening at the Milimani Law Courts, and yesterday we had a lot of reactions, over the weekend rather, people reacting to the action that the DPP is taking against a lot of high-profile individuals. Last week we had Kidero as well in court. So do you think, in your opinion, I'll start with you, Bessie, do you think Haji is doing a good job?
Well, thank you. To begin with, I think he is doing a good job. We're on the right track. But beyond that, I need to see more and to have, let's say, a plan. Yes, we have gotten Kidero, we have gotten Swazuri and group, but what next? We want them to follow the full wrath of the law, but what they have taken from Kenyans, what happens to that? Will they return? Or are we just having another theatrical expression in the courts? But it's a good step.
Okay.
But we need to know what next.
All right.
What they have taken, what is the Kenyans, what belong to Kenyans, will it come back? It's not just going to court, will it come back?
Will the money come back?
Yes.
Steve, I don't know whether you had a chance to read the statement released by the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, yesterday, and he posed the same question that Bessie has posed, which is the Assets Recovery Agency doing enough to recover these monies?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to de-emphasize the clamor to appropriate success to political class, success of at the ODPP to the political class. You see, under the Constitution, Article 157, the Director of Public Prosecution is an independent officer. He functions independently, and what we saw in the past was that either that office was held by people who are incompetent and therefore incapable to discharge the functions of that office as is intended by the law, or they were co-opted in the philosophy of corruption and therefore they were unable to function normally. So what we've seen someone who is faithful to his mandate. We should be very slow to celebrate that, because that is what we expect anyway from the ODPP. So I'm not going to sit here and celebrate the new vigor that is brought. That is the proper intention of the law. And I want to dissuade Kenyans from reassigning the success of the ODPP to the changing political climate. It's not true. And if it is true, I would be demoralized. It shouldn't be true that the new wave or the new vigor in terms of combating corruption can be or should be attributed to the handshake. The law doesn't locate that.
Okay.
You get, and if the DPP is responding to the handshake, then he has misplaced the point, because then what it means is that if you leave governance or maybe the war on corruption to be shaped by external people, the political actors, it means that if they fall out as politicians are bound to fall out, then it means that the ODP will not be able to function.
Okay.
We would like to believe that the fidelity to the law, the desire to remain within the ambit of that office and to do those things that have been remitted to that office is what is now giving us the kind of results that we are seeing.
All right. As I see it, what you're saying is the ideal situation is that the political atmosphere, as Raila Odinga put it, should not really factor into how the DPP carries out his duties. But is that the reality, though, Gabriel?
Honestly, law notwithstanding, and yeah, I mean, Wakili has brought actually out some very good points. But when you look at the previous holders of that office, no pun intended, it gives you a direction that the new DPP actually has his act together. And albeit the fact that that is his job, the Constitution mandates him to do nothing but ensure that people are prosecuted. I think I'll call it a good direction. It's a good, we are heading in the right direction, and we cannot downplay that. All right, we have not seen, I mean, for a very long time, we've not seen, you know, the people you've mentioned.
Okay.
You know, people in that class. You know, these are people who thought they could, you know, get away with everything. Right. So it is a very good direction we are heading. Okay. Having said that, let me just point this very quick.
We'll come right back to that. Right. Sorry. The Devolution CS, Eugene Wamalwa, is about to address the press at Treasury Building.
And we have two issues that we wanted to address this morning. And with us, apart from the governor representing the chair of the Council of Governors, Governor Nanok, we also have our two PSs here. PS Pawon, heading the State Department of ASAL, and PS Sunkuli, heading the State Department of Devolution. So the first issue concerns the State Department of ASAL, that's headed by PS Mika Pawon. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome the governor for Samburu and thank him for joining us to represent the Council of Governors. And as you are aware, we did have the Ministry of Northern Kenya introduced right after the 2008 elections and post-election violence. This State Department was created as a successor of the Ministry of Northern Kenya. This is a ministry that after 50 years of our independence was created to bring focus to the arid and semi-arid lands, particularly in northern Kenya, a region that had been marginalized for many years. The State Department brings together about 29 counties that are arid and semi-arid. After the formation of the Ministry for Northern Kenya, that was headed by our good friend Minister Elmi, we did have, for the first time, a policy that was developed under Session Paper number 8 of 2012 to guide the development of Northern Kenya. After that, we did have a strategic plan that had been put in place by Minister Elmi and his team. And when government was finally formed in 2013, the Ministry of Northern Kenya was not one of the ministries that was formed at the time, but the second election, His Excellency the President deemed it fit to have a State Department set aside specifically to address challenges that are facing our ASAL counties. And as I said, there are 29 of them. We have, as a ministry, since our appointment, put together a team to review the policy that had been put in place. And we're very pleased to tell Kenyans that as we speak, this policy is ready and is coming before Cabinet and will soon be coming before Parliament. We do also have a strategic plan that has picked up from where the previous one ended in 2012 to plan for the development of this region in consultation with the Council of Governors and the county governments that have been in place for the last 5 years and have their CIDPs. So for the first time, we want to announce today that we will be hosting our inaugural ASAL conference. This is a conference that will be convened in an ASAL county, that is Kilifi, beginning the 5th up to 7th of September. And we are looking forward to hosting all the 29 county governments, our development partners, and all players, particularly the big four ministries that will be interacting with the county governments to see how the ASAL region can actually become the new frontier for the realization of the big four. So there will be various issues that we'll be looking at, and basically to see how we can work together to build a partnership as national government, together with the county governments, and together with our development partners. Most of our development partners have many programs running up. They have their northern strategies. We want to see how we can coordinate and harmonize all these strategies, all these programs by the county governments, by the national government, as well as our development partners to transform this region. So we're very, very pleased that today we have completed plans for this conference. And we want to thank the Council of Governors for working very, very closely with us in terms of preparation for this conference, and to welcome all stakeholders to this conference that we'll be holding from the 5th up to the 7th of September. So this was the purpose of welcoming you here, and we'll be sharing with you the details of the conference, which will circulate to you. And we want to urge the media that apart from the partnership that we are developing as national government with the county governments and with our development partners, we want to develop that partnership with the media. You play a very important role. When we are talking about devolution, you are our partner. We want to see how we can work together to bring back focus on these ASAL counties as the new frontier for the transformation of our country. In fact, I've been telling my good friend, the PS, Mika Powan here, that in the Bible there is a saying of the stone that the builders cast away that eventually became the cornerstone. I think with the coming of devolution, there's that change of focus, change of policy. From session paper number 10 of 1965, devolution is actually changing things in the ASAL counties, and we are looking forward to working very closely with our governors and our county governments towards realization of the Big Four agenda. The second issue that we've called you here for is the issue touching on farmers. There has been a great outcry from farmers. As we speak, I think both houses of parliament have issues to do with the payment of farmers before them. Whether you're talking about the Senate or the National Assembly, we have leaders focusing on the issue of the payment of farmers. And today I'm very, very pleased to announce that our ministry has now been given the responsibility of managing the strategic food reserve in line with Executive Order number 1 of 2018. We will, as a ministry, be working very, very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture. The two institutions that will be key towards addressing the farmers' concerns is the SFR, which is now under our ministry, as well as the NCPB, which remains under the Ministry of Agriculture. We had already, as government, initiated the arrangements for payment of all our farmers. But as you are aware, there was a hue and cry over the payments. There were allegations that had been raised about certain payments being made to people who are not genuine farmers, and particularly people who are traders and who cashed in on the initial payments. These led to the halting of the exercise in terms of payment, so that the government would then address the concerns of the farmers, the concerns of the leaders, particularly in the North Rift, to get to the bottom of these complaints. A multi-agency team was formed to investigate these concerns, and indeed it has been established that there were genuine concerns about merchants who were bringing in maize and who actually got payments at the expense of the ordinary farmers. What we want to announce today is what remedial action we have put in place as government, working between our two ministries and other agencies. We have a multi-agency team that has been formed that also includes the EACC, that have been investigating these allegations. We do have the DCI and his team, and we are working very closely also with the county governments, with our county commissioners, the Ministry of Interior, so that we put in place a system that will ensure genuine farmers get their dues. So today I am pleased to say that the government has released 1.4 billion towards the payment of the farmers, and we have said beginning today we want to commence a process of vetting of these farmers. We do know that every genuine farmer must have a delivery note, they must have been identified. There was registration of farmers that was ongoing, and we will be starting the vetting today in all our depots, and we'll be requesting that the farmers follow the procedures that we are going to put in place. There will be teams, almost 28 teams that will be dispatched to the various NCPB depots to work with our counterparts in Interior, with the county governments, to ensure that this vetting process is done as quickly as possible, so that by Friday we would like to ensure that with proper vetting having been completed, we can resume the payment process. So ours today is to assure the farmers that the money is available. We regret the delay in completing these payments, but it was necessary that first we address the concerns raised by farmers, raised by leaders, before we continue with the process of payment. And we will be ready to commence this payment. In total, what we owe the farmers is about 3.5 billion, and we will commence with these 1.4 billion. We will be requiring of all our farmers, maybe just to take you through the process, though we'll be publishing it in the papers, that the following is the process that we shall conduct verification and payment of farmers with. One is that all maize farmers who deliver their maize to NCPB depots should immediately visit their respective depots, beginning today and going forward. We will also be looking at the delivery notes which these farmers are supposed to be presenting. We will also be looking at the certified documents from the chiefs and the sub-county agriculture officers, because the registration process has been ongoing, as I had said. After that, we will also be requiring them to present themselves with these copies of the national ID card, the PIN, passport photos, the weighbridge ticket showing where their maize was weighed and delivered, as well as the delivery note. And in case of companies that delivered, we'll also be looking at the copies of the certificates of incorporation. We'll require them to have their tax compliance certificates, as well as the PIN certificates and CR12 forms. So we will be working together, as I had said, several ministries in carrying out this exercise, which will be led by our ministry, the Ministry of Devolution and ASAL, working closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, the Ministry of Interior, NCPB and SFR will be the two institutions that will be leading the process, DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, as well as county governments. So this, we want to say that we are pleased that finally we can start the process moving again, and we anticipate that we should be able, within the next 21 days, effective from 20th of August, to complete the process of payment of all the farmers. So that is why we've called you here today. But before I request my PSs, they would like to add something. Just to welcome His Excellency the Governor to, on behalf of the COG, on the upcoming ASAL conference, to say a few words. Then maybe my PSs, if they have something to add, will do so. Thank you very much. And we'll take questions after that.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Bwana CS. Just to mention, in regard to the conference, we'll be having the ASAL conference on 5th as indicated, and we are happy as ASAL counties, this being the inaugural conference touching on close to 29 counties in Kenya, mostly in northern Kenya. And this conference will give insights to several issues cutting across sectors. Of course, of precedence will be the big four, especially the component on food security. We'll be touching on other issues, touching on social integration, touching on ending drought emergencies, and particularly acceleration of the economic development. We may also have some other issues touching on arid zones, particularly on equalization fund, the CS has indicated on policy issues, enactment of law that will facilitate accelerated development in some of these ASAL areas. Of major concern, we'll be handling about 4 thematic areas. Among them, the accelerated economic development, as indicated, the social integration, climate change, and associated disaster risk management. And most of these issues will be dealt with, touching on ASAL areas. We'll also be inviting other committees within the COG to make sure that all sectors touching on economic development are also addressed in regard to some of these areas.
Thank you. So I think we can take a few questions, if you have any. But just to thank the Governor and the Council of Governors for their support. This conference, it will not be easy to hold 2 conferences in 1 year. To have both the Devolution conference that was very successful in Kakamega, and to have the ASAL conference within the same year. We are very, very thankful to the COG and the improved intergovernmental relations that we now have. And to also thank our development partners who have played a major role in supporting both the Devolution conference that we concluded in May in Kakamega, as well as the upcoming ASAL conference in September. If you have any questions, we are ready to take them now. Yes, back there. Morning. Morning. Yes. What, 1.4? Yes.
So how are you going to determine who gets paid this money? And will you be paying it, like, for instance, if you pay me 100 million, you pay me 50%, you pay me the whole 100 million. That's all. Secondly, you understand that you haven't paid transporters yet. Transporters who transported that grain or whatever it needed to be moved to the sites. You haven't paid them, and that right now they are companies within headquarters demanding that pay. So the question is, why have you not paid them, and how much do you owe?
Thank you. Yes, you can take 3. Yes.
2 questions. One, this is when the process started already. So what is different with the one that is going to start? Is it there on Friday? Yes. And then 2, you said that you're going to pay farmers by Thursday. So the next 1 day, right? Are we talking of 3.5 billion or the 1.5?
Thank you. I think you repeated the same question. What has been released is 1.4 billion. And what we want to start with, our priority would be to start with particularly the smallholder farmers. The majority of the farmers were the ordinary farmers who brought in their maize. But we also have those who were large-scale, genuine farmers. They are known. But we also have those who are traders who brought in a lot of maize. So our priority is to ensure that we get to the genuine farmers, start with them, and we will be progressing on to deal with the issue of transporters. The farmer who worked hard, and I'm one of the farmers from that region, we know who the farmers are, but we also know that there are those who are traders who did not have the acreage that could have delivered the amount of maize they did to NCPB. So we have a process in place What we had was an investigation, actually, an audit, when there were issues raised. And that is why the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has been fully involved in the process. We will be moving forward as a team to now just do the verification and the payment. This we want to start immediately. Thank you. But the transporters are not part of this. That is being addressed separately. This is strictly for farmers who deliver their maize and who are entitled to their payments. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Wamala from West TV. I have two questions too. One, what is the state of the strategic grain reserve? Maybe the country, as a country, we need to know where are we as far as our reserves are concerned. Two, what are the rates, and what are the rates that you are paying the farmers, and what are the measures that you've put in place to ensure that, because most parts in Western are harvesting, so what are the plans to ensure that the maize they're harvesting is bought by the ACP?
Like I said, I'm also a farmer, and I know the outcry that is out there. As we speak, there are certain parts of this country where already the crop is ready for harvesting. So as a responsible government, we wanted to ensure that we pay for the last crop, even as the new crop comes in. So that is why we are moving to ensure that farmers who delivered in the last season are paid their money. The delay, as I've said, was because of the outcry that was there that necessitated investigations to be carried out. What we have put in place is a fair and transparent process to ensure that the genuine farmers are identified and they are paid their dues. Our strategic grain reserve, as we speak, stands over 3 million bags of maize, and we want to assure Kenyans we have enough food in our strategic grain reserve, and we will also be expanding this, hopefully towards 6 million or maximum of 8 million. But as it is, we have enough maize, and we want to assure farmers that we also have enough money to pay them. But we want to ensure we pay the genuine farmers. We regret the delay, but it was necessary for this verification to be done and also for the investigations to be carried out so that there's a fair, transparent, accountable, and verifiable process. That is what we're putting in place today. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, let's take one from this side.
On the ASAL conference,
yes,
these processes that have gone along from 1965,
yes,
the Northern Ministry, the ASAL Ministry,
yes,
and then now, what is the national government going to the table with that these are the progresses that you have made, we want to intensify?
I think first of all, the fact that the government deemed it fit to have a ministry specifically addressing a region, Northern Kenya, shows that it is a government that is concerned about a region that has talked about marginalization for a long time. So with devolution in place, we are working very closely with all these county governments to address these issues of marginalization. And now that we have a State Department specifically created to address ASAL counties, we want to assure the people of Northern Kenya that the focus has changed and the programs in terms of intensifying development of this region has also changed. So we will be working very closely with the county governments. All we need as a ministry is to create the coordination so that we harmonize these programs. There are many programs in Northern Kenya. In all these ASAL counties, the problem has been coordination. And once we come together around one table, with all our governors, our senators, members of parliament, MCAs from these regions, we come together with our development partners. As we speak, we have the FCDC and the NADI initiative, where we launched the NADI initiative of 100 billion going to 10 counties. We are looking at infrastructure. We are looking at water. We are looking at developing a region that has been left behind. So we need a platform that can bring together all stakeholders and all players that can coordinate and create synergies so that we develop this region that has been left behind as far as development is concerned.
That was the Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, who's still briefing the press on the strategic food reserve, and he's addressed concerns by farmers over the delay in their payment. He says farmers will be vetted starting today in a process he says will involve various ministries and government agencies, including the investigative authorities, to ensure that only genuine farmers are paid. They have 1.4 billion at present that will be paid out to the farmers, but they have a total debt of 3.5 billion. We'll bring you more on that story as it develops. We cross over now to Kisii, where we are joined by Bernard Ojwang. In Kisii, that's where the International Youth Day was celebrated yesterday and was presided over by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Bernard, what are the expectations of the youth in Kisii?
Well, thank you very much, Olive. We are here in Kisii town, the home of Amatoke, as they call it. It is just yesterday when President Uhuru Kenyatta was here to address over 5,000 people here, and he also appealed to youth to help him popularize the Big Four agenda and also help him the fight against corruption. And today, what's going on here in Kisii town is we have a lot of events. We have the inter-county games, of which will be following up, and also here where we are at Kisii University, whereby over 200 youths are being trained here on the advanced building system. Remember, they are youths who are specialized in building and construction. And right now we are just going to talk to one of the youth leader here. Just tell us how is it going to help in this issue of a Big Four agenda. You start with your name.
My name is Dennis Orioki. I'm the youth leader Kisii County. We've just had a successful International Youth Day yesterday. And basically, this is a climax of what has been done. We are training the local fundis, our youth who need basic skills on how to build. But there's a new technology where a number of initiatives and innovation have been done so that to help build and save some finance. So basically, here at the university, the Vice Chancellor gave us a platform in culmination of the Youth Day, which was a big event. And we organized over 400 young people to be trained here at the university. I think much can be done or can be said by the university. Basically, ours was just mobilization. The youth are cutting across. They're from Kisii and Nyamira counties and other counties which are closer to us.
Oriki, the president yesterday appealed to youth at least to help him popularize the issue of a Big Four agenda. How are you going to chip in?
Basically, this is but just the start or the beginning. In the Big Four agenda, there is housing, which is critical. And the training that has been done here on building using the new technology basically is going to cure that. It's going to work on that, especially the Pillar 4, where housing is critical. The young people will be playing a pivotal role in enhancing the new technology and probably helping to use new technologies and become innovative on how to build, of course with a saving, because the technology comes with a save and other incentives.
Well, thank you very much, Orioki. We'll be talking to our Vice Chancellor here. Welcome, Prof. We are being told after maybe completion of school, many youths prefer white-collar jobs. What is your take over this? And today you've hosted these youths here talking about the advanced technology on building and construction.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, we welcome the more than 400 youths who have come to Kisii University to be trained on this new technology known as ESP technology. And we have got to say that this falls within the university mandate of corporate social responsibility. And fundamentally, what we are doing here is that we are trying to, as you will remember yesterday, the president was here and he said so many good things about the youth. And the most important thing here is that these youths must be wealth creators, not job seekers. So here we are really empowering them, and you know the government has provided various facilities. There is the Achila Forum, there is the Uwezo Fund, there is the 20% tender process for the youth, and many other forums to empower the youth.
Prof, you are training them here. They have come here and you are talking to them. How is this going to help maybe the youth in this county? And yesterday you heard the president saying that they want him, they want the youth here in the country to help him popularize the Big Four agenda. Of course, one of the Big Four agenda is housing.
Yes. I can tell you that this technology is quite appropriate technology for the youth. It's very easy to adapt. But when you adapt the technology, we find that is really the best. It reduces production cost by more than 20%. At the same time, the construction time is reduced by almost a half. And eventually, the product which is developed is excellent product. So we are going to assist the youth go further after they get the skills. We will again try to connect them with the appropriate funders so that they are funded like the National Housing Corporation. We are also approaching the government. Remember that, housing is one of the Big Four. So what we want is that our young people should not sit idle at home. They should not be talking about getting white-collar jobs. We are talking about blue-collar jobs, being able to create wealth and empowering themselves so that they are able to live sustainable livelihoods. And as the youths we are seeing here, these are the kind of youth we need in our country. These are not youths who are waiting to be fed. They are youths who are ready to feed us and develop the country. And as you know, a country is the youth. And you know that the president is very much interested in this particular initiative. And I believe that with a clear proposal and a clear information, is going to empower these youths in providing funds so that they are able to start constructing houses here at minimal costs. And these are houses which are durable. A house built using ESP technology can stay for more than 300 years.
Prof, after this training here today, what are your expectations?
My expectation here is that these youths are going to be empowered and they are going to be immediately adapt this particular technology so that they move forward and they are able to, many of them are already Masons. So this technology, they will just follow it very fast. This is an international technology already being used in Europe. So these youths are going to adapt this technology here and we start building houses.
Oh, well,
even me, I might ask them to give them a contract to build for me a house.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, in fact, I'm putting aside about 2 million shillings so that they build for me a 2-bedroom house. Yes, so this is very interesting, isn't it?
Thanks a lot, Prof. And Olive, we are very much privileged. Remember, most of these youths, they saying that they lack financial support, at least to maybe go for this higher learning where they get this the techniques on how to come up with strong thing. We are joined by one of the leaders here. How are you going to help these youths achieve, maybe help President popularize this Big Four agenda?
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Sekeri Machogumbaki, Member of Parliament for Nyaribari Masaba. I want to thank the organizers. I want first and foremost to thank the organizers of this and those who have been able to bring this new technology to Kenya, because one of the Big Four agenda in Kenya is housing. Because, our people, a number of them are moving into towns, even Kisii town and Nairobi, you get so many people, but the kind of housing you get them in are a kind of substandard. Some of them are in informal sectors, slums, where there is no water, where there are no basic facilities. So what we are talking as a country, as our priority now, and that's why the government has been able to set adequate funds to ensure that we are able to improve housing. I was in South Africa last week, and South Africa is one country that has been able to adapt and embrace this particular technology. And actually, it's a technology where with little money, you can be able to do very, very good housing. Houses that our families, our people can be able to live in and find that life is better than
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Olive, you've just heard from one of the youth leaders there, the Vice Chancellor here at the Kisii University, and even the area MP saying that this kind of training is going to help the youth, help the president popularize the issue of Big Four agenda. Of course, the housing department is there, and many youths are here. According to the youth leaders, they are appealing to leaders at least to support these youths financially so that they achieve these goals. Back to you, Olive.
Bernard Ojwang there, speaking to us from Kisii, where he was following up on the International Youth Day. So we take a short break now, but when we come back, I will come back with my eminent panelists to discuss everything from corruption to the demolitions and the sugar report. Welcome back. You're watching NTV Today. My name is Olive Burrows and I'm joined by an eminent panel. That is Bessie Kadhambi, who's a governance consultant with the County Governance Watch. We have Gabriel Mudhuma sitting next to her on her left. He is, yes, a political commentator. Didn't want to give us much more detail on that, did you? Then, of course, we have Steve Ogola, an advocate of the High Court. So it's been a busy morning. We saw, or rather, Swazuri and his co-accused, that is Atanas Maina of Kenya Railways, are in court together with the CEO of the NLC, Tom Chavangi. So a lot of praise has been heaped on Haji following these high-profile arraignments. So you were speaking last, Gabriel.
Yes. And in fact, the point I was trying to make was, albeit the fact that they've been put into that office to perform, and that's something that we are going back and forth with our Wakili here. We cannot forget to incentivize somebody when the work that they are doing can actually be seen. Yes, we may be, it's still on the early stages. He had mentioned actually some of the challenges that he found at the DPPs, and not only in the DPPs, you remember the DCI had similar challenges as well, and the Attorney General's office as well. But what he came out with guns blazing was that he is going to surround himself with very good prosecutors who are going to bring about watertight cases, because, I mean, again, no pun intended for the former office holder, we did not see a lot of nerve-wracking cases, succeeding. So after we talk about this issue, we still need one thing to convince many Kenyans, the doubting Thomases, if I may, if you will, that there are people who are going to spend time in prison. That in itself will have reached a corner where every Kenyan can say, man, we are getting somewhere, or we have gotten somewhere. Okay. And not only that, the other thing that we must see is what our sister here said, recovery. We must just ensure, it is a good thing when we go out there and copy methods. It's a very good thing. When we go to China and say, China is building, Germany is building. But there's one thing that we forget, the principles under which they used to fight corruption. If China is shooting people and hanging people because of corruption, why can we not just copy that principle?
Well, that's a
no, seriously. But have you ever asked yourself that question? Have you ever asked that? We copy everything. We copy everything. Very good methods. But their system of governance, we fail to incorporate it. Why are we afraid of that principle?
Bessie wants to chime in there.
Okay, one, I agree with what Gabriel is saying. Where I don't agree with killing people, but the principle here is the principle is that it doesn't matter whether it is the president's son who was caught in corruption. In China, it works. Yes. There is no second, maybe it is because I'm so and so.
Actually, in Japan, you have leaders falling on their swords quite literally. It's that big an issue.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not where we now start debating because it's Swazuri, we can think of giving him an upgraded Kiambu committee prison cell so that he can get good meals. When others are doing hard labor, he's sitting. No, if it works for everybody, it works for everybody. And that is what I agree. But what I disagreed with Steve is, if someone is doing a good job, I would want to feel for sure I'm being appreciated. We're just appreciating, not to tell Haji that you slacken back. No. It is to tell you we have noticed what you're doing. Keep up.
All right.
But it's your job. That's what you're being
That's what you're meant to do. Steve, I'm going to bring you in now. You spoke about the co-opting of Haji's predecessors, one of whom who is now the Environment CS, Keriako Tobiko, who is appearing before the Environment and Natural Resources Committee of the National Assembly to report on, remember the report on logging. So do you think he was co-opted? Why is it that he appears to be outshining, or rather Haji appears to be outshining Tobiko's legacy?
What Haji has done, and it is done so effortlessly in terms of exposing without intending to Tobiko. Remember, personally, I disagreed and I rejected Tobiko's appointment or reassignment because he had a term, he had not completed the 8-year tenure. When you are a holder of an independent constitutional office, then before you serve fully, you exit that office for a political appointment. It gives a bad sign that you are distracted. So what Haji is showing us, it means that either Tobiko was grossly incompetent, in which case he ought not to have been appointed in the first place, or he had compromised capacity, which is just a decent way of saying that he was corrupt. So I think his tenure, even at the Ministry of Environment, is doomed to fail because he has not disinherited the philosophy that made him fail, at the ODPP. I like the vigor, and I'm not going to undermine the work that Haji is doing. That's not the point. The point is, either Kenyans have fallen so low of expectation that it becomes impossible to notice common sense things. You have a constitutional office that is insulated from external political manipulation. You have an office that is filled based on meritocracy, you know, competencies, non-competencies. Why would this person not deliver? Why would you celebrate him if he's delivering? I mean, these are basic questions that I'm raising, and I'm urging him to continue. Now, what I discourage Kenyans and political elite from appropriating success in any of these functional office, these independent offices, is because then they will distract Kenyans and mislead us into believing that if the ODPP is working, it is thanks to the handshake or thanks to the political leadership. Of course, you cannot undermine the value of political leadership. And I've always argued that if you want to combat and defeat corruption, corruption is best fought at the ballot. When you're organizing government, you elect someone that you believe is truly committed to the transformative agenda, because that is the person. You know, as the head of the executive, the president controls a lot of public service officials. You know, and in consultation with the head of the Public Service Commission, he can drive the agenda there in terms of ensuring that all public and state officers abide by the law, are less open to manipulation of those officers, they are not responsive to corruption. That is the kind of political leadership that is necessary to mitigate corruption. Right. But in terms of combating, you know, already within the law, and it's very important that viewers capture this, we have preventive measures, we have disruptive measures, and we have punitive measures.
So what are we going through now? Is it the disruptive phase?
Preventive measures, which is what happens during the induction of all public officers, that listen, exposing public officials, these are the laws. Be aware that these are the laws, and these laws will catch up with you if you falsify them. Disruptive measures means, and I have faulted EACC before arrival of Nordin, EACC's spectacular fail was well documented. In terms of disrupting the process, the law allows EACC to continuously engage with all public offices and state offices to interrogate through whether they want to call them liaison officers or maybe accounting officers, to inquire, is there anybody falsifying the processes, rather than waiting until the tail end when a scandal emerges. Then now they fly into action. It shows that the ability of EACC to disrupt the process of is weak. Then you have the punitive measures, which is now what we are seeing: people being charged, being arrested, arraigned in court, and charged. Now, I don't think Kenyans should put much emphasis on the success of those courts at the court, the success of those cases at the courts, because the thing is this: in terms of fighting corruption, the fact that there's been a decisive action to investigate, arrest, and arraign, that itself is a communication of success. And it already signals to the public officers who are serving that it can slow down corruption. Right now, the incentive, I know Gabriel talk about incentives and incentivizing the system. The incentive to steal right now is very low, because you don't know whether you'll be next. So in terms of communication, that is a huge success.
All right, I know Bessie wants to come in, but just before we get
just to tie that, it now, what we must now expect, we hope that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has what we call in law incontrovertible evidence to sustain the confidence he has. Otherwise, if these cases collapse at the court because of want of evidence, then people may then be may be disillusioned again, thinking that all this was the whole hype around corruption did not bear fruit. So I hope that the approach is taken is also matched by evidence, and the courts will pick it and will convict.
I agree, and I see we all agree that he seems or appears to be doing a commendable job, or rather just his job. I want to move that conversation along, and first we want to hear what Wetangula had to say on the matter and what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say yesterday.
Time has come for us to fight impunity. A time has come for every Kenyan to realize, no matter how powerful you think you are, no matter how much you think you know people in high position, no matter how much money you have, that will not save you. That will not save you.
Huyo kijana anaitwa Haji. Sasa amekuwa a household name in Kenya kwa sababu anafanya kazi yake bila mapendeleo. Wale watu walikuwa wameshindwa kushikwa, sasa anawashika na kuweka ndani. Ile nakwambia Bwana Haji, bado kuna mafisadi wengine ambao Wakenya wanajiuliza utawafikia au hautawafikia.
Well, Wetangula there has introduced the idea of untouchables, and we had President Uhuru Kenyatta saying it doesn't matter what your status in society is, everybody is fair game. Do you believe him, Bessie?
Well, for the president, I don't, because it's more of rhetoric. yeah, I will be a little bit harsh because we have said nobody, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I want to see the people who took our money. Let's start with NYS this year. Where are the people who took our money? Let's go back. Why is he saying he doesn't care? When you start with firing all those people in treasury, put them, all of them in, because that money that we are losing in terms of corruption deals is paid through treasury. So if he's really, really serious about he doesn't care, then those are the people that should be inside. Before you get to the Swazuris, the money that is we are always talking about scandal about money, is paid through treasury. I expect the people in treasury, starting from the CS himself, to be put inside. Then we'll be talking. Now we know that the untouchables, per se, what Wetangula is saying, will be arrested. But we are just playing theatrics here. Let's start from treasury. Right. That's where our money is coming from.
Gabriel, are there untouchables?
Well, the president has actually pronounced himself to that. And research, if we go by what has been documented, you know, we cannot run away from the fact that we know corruption, deep, serious corruption exists in this country. We know very well you have people who feel that they are untouchable. And that is where the president came in and said, you know what, I have lost friends. You know, people have been trying to reach me, to talk to me about demolitions and what have you. And probably not even demolitions alone. There could be other facets of corruption where people have said, you know what, I'm a friend to the head of state. You've heard so many people, you know, dropping names. You know, you can't do this to me because I and the president are good friends. We are probably golfing, but you know, you've heard that kind of talk. And what the president is saying is this, it is not business as usual. That, I think, is the communication that he's trying to set out across. And why is he, you know, albeit the fact that many people can say, why did he not do this in his first term? I'll tell you this. I think when he is looking at a legacy, the big four, to be precise, if you look at the big four, every person who has sat down to really go through what big four is all about will tell you that these are serious game changers to this country. It is a very robust kind of undertaking which we've never seen. But one thing stands in the way, and that is corruption. So before we talk much about the big four, which we all agree and accept is going to be a game changer, what do we do about corruption? He realizes that I cannot talk about big four as much as I would want, because this ghost called corruption will come and mess it up. So we first fight corruption. And by the way, I will support what somebody said. I heard them, they had a very good discussion. And one person said, you know, the big four actually can be, you know, they can start well, just like Kibaki did, and, you know, another administration came in and took in. It can be that if it comes to that. But we have started in the right footing. But if we are able to deal with corruption decisively, bringing it to an all-new law, guess what? The president will have won, and he will have actually left a very good legacy, which is fight against corruption.
Can I pose this to you then?
Yes.
Couldn't we say that he set this precedent of untouchables in his first term?
Yes.
If you remember what happened with NYS 1,
right,
there was a perception that the president was protecting the now Kirinyaga governor,
right,
and Waiguru. So, I mean...
But perception or not, I think I have never seen a president go to parliament and say, these are the names that you forwarded to me. Most of these people are my friends, but I'm putting it out to you. They are going to resign. You saw Charity Ngilu. You saw former CS, Engineer Kamau. And no other leader has ever done that. I am not saying, you know, we did not have issues in his first term. But he was alive to the institutions. And everybody should be. Wakili will tell us here that there is a place where, even if your government, the executive, you will only get to a point where the law and the institution mandated by the constitution to take over will take over. Question has always been, what if this institution continue failing? And this is where we bring in the gravy of the matter. The DPP is working hard, and we can see the mood of the people is right. Don't forget about that. The mood of the people is saying, guys, we cannot continue like that. Research has documented we are having serious issues in matters governance. Money is being stolen right, left. What if the judiciary does not read or augur with the mood of the people? Right. Do you know what will happen? We will go back to square one, and then we'll start pointing fingers. Oh, the president is not doing anything about corruption. Parliament will invoke in Parliament. We will bring in everybody, failing to forget that there is an institution that has not marinated with the mood of the people.
Okay, Bessie?
One thing I would say is, let's not put words in the president's mouth. Yes? For me, is when you're talking about him talking about the untouchables, we have seen it. Steve has said common sense doesn't seem to be common sense in Kenya, because if we know who has been taking our money, then why are we going all these round circles? He knows who has it. He sits as the head of this country, and he can say pick so and so, pick so and so, pick so and so, because
and then what? As an executive, as a president, follow the law properly, because the president can actually give. Would you want him to give a presidential decree? Shoot that one. We have laws in this country. I'll bet the fact that you would want somebody, take it. I'll bet it actually it could be a brother when he said, if my brother has actually been caught in these deals, prosecute him. All right? Who is to take over from this? And Steve, I know, will agree with me, because there is another department that is actually
Bessie is saying he can give certain directives. Gabriel is saying he can. But the other day, on the question of demolitions, and he said these government officials who issued these permits and gave these approvals should be prosecuted as well. They shouldn't be left to go scot-free. Does he have that power to do that?
Yes, the power is under Article 132, sub-article 4. Every public official, the president can direct. In fact, the Constitution uses the term direct the public service.
Thank you.
So yes, he can provide that leadership. I think what is critical to note is this. The president's aggressive posture has earned him political dividend. Because you see, the war on corruption is a question of law and perception. In terms of perception, he has dismantled the predominant view that people who know people can always get away with corruption. If you contradistinguish his posture now with the posture then, where he was asking Kenyans, what else can you expect me to do? We are working within the law. The re-emergence of the president now is more forceful and more targeted, and I think he will earn him dividends and he will secure his legacy. He needs to maintain that momentum, because of the unintended consequences. The ripple effect will be, if you really think, because corruption thrives in a structured impunity system, where you can do this and get away with it, because if you're questioned, you bounce it to the next person who is more superior than the one who's questioning you. Now, if you disrupt the system, then that's a strong disincentive to engage in corruption, and also mitigates against impunity. So that's the kind of leadership that is needed to inspire confidence or national renewal in our systems of governance.
Right.
But in terms of strategy, and I agree with Gabriel, strategy of combating corruption still lies with the key institutions. And you see, what Wetangula is not telling Kenyans in terms of the so-called, look at the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. It allows the EACC to move ex parte without involving the proposed accused persons, move to court, apply for preservation orders, which means in this country there's a presumption of guilt when it involves corruption case, that I can go to court as EACC and tell the court, demonstrate that, listen, based on the wealth declarations of Gabriel here in the last year, and based on assets that are now known to him, there's reason to believe that they have been acquired through corruption. So we want orders to preserve this property pending investigations and pending arraignment, and the court will issue that. If the ODP has not been doing that, and I already said either he was grossly incompetent or he had a compromised capacity. Now what we are seeing is a clear shift. When it comes to demolition, well, in principle, if you have put...
Okay, before we get to that, you introduced the term political dividends.
Yes.
And if you've been on social media between last night and this morning, you've probably seen a lot of people have shared that video of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the Fem Ministry's service, speaking to the bishop, telling the bishop, I've lost friends. First, let's listen to that first, and then we'll get to the question. That is a clip there. We want to play the clip of President Uhuru Kenyatta speaking on the demolitions, saying he's lost friends.
Over the last few weeks, I've lost very many friends, Bishop. because I've been receiving so many calls that, you know, how can you just sit there and watch all this destruction going on? You must stop it. And I said, well, it's difficult to stop. It's difficult to stop not because we love to destroy, but because we must fight impunity.
Why do you think this statement and the statement he made about it doesn't matter how highly placed you are, we are all under the same law? Why do you think that statement has struck such a chord with the Kenyan public?
I think I was explaining that in terms of political dividend, what he has now communicated publicly, and Kenyans were shocked. I mean, really, if you look at our experience, you know, in terms of governance, this is like a renewal of, an abrupt renewal of faith in our institutions of governance. People can't believe that you can see South End Mall demolished. Right. Because, you know, these are multi-billion projects owned by people who are well-connected. You can believe that, you know, properties that cost a lot of money are being demolished. It shows that that political cover, the veil of political cover has been lifted. And when the president comes and tells us that he's lost, believe him, he's lost friends, and some of them can only gnash their teeth. They can only wish that this was their first term, because then they would have abandoned him in the second term. But he's matched his timing very well. He's now concerned about legacy. I hope that this can continue till the rest of the term, and Kenyans will judge him well. In fact, in terms of reinventing his political career, because he's still very young, what he can do, he can't run for president. But I would not be surprised if he's again co-opted in some other political spaces, and Kenyans will have to judge that based on what is evolving. But on what is seen now, I think he's done very well. We must give him credit for political leadership. That kind of leadership has inspired faith, and you've seen across the political divide, both Jubilee supporters, NASA supporters, we are united that this time we are getting it right. And we saw, because of Kidero's arrest, and because of the united, I think now these are some of the benefits of the handshake you're talking about. Nobody has attempted to politicize these arrests, these prosecutions, and I think in terms of crafting a way that, you know, having come from a very acrimonious political environment, having crafted a unity pact with Raila Odinga, the president is now able to, he has a safe environment to operate, and he's doing it very well, and I can only wish him well so far.
Okay, Bessie?
For me, one thing I like is that he has come out and said we have to fight impunity, because these people, the buildings that are being destroyed or demolished, it's not that they were not told. Yeah, but because they knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, and they thought that mentality would continue further on, now they've gotten the reality of what should have started, and I hope it will continue. It's not going to stop with just one building that is famous, and we have many buildings that are still on riparian and have to be demolished, have to. And the president, if he's still talking the same tough talking he's talking, that has to happen. Okay. And I wait to see that.
Gabriel, you're nodding a lot of yeses. You know, and I want to ask you, yes. We've had a lot of tweets from senators and from, well, also lawyers, such as Steve, who are saying the same thing the president said, which is, you know, who approved the, yes, demolish the buildings. Yes, there was fault on the part of the owners of these structures, but there was also fault on the part of those who gave these approvals and permits. Do you actually see them being prosecuted?
Prosecution will actually be and it's ongoing. We've been promised that they'll also, you know, the law will also catch up with them. And the president has actually, again, addressed himself to that. But there's a funny thing, and I think the last time I was on this broadcast, we spoke about it. See, the corruption menace perpetuated by people who have means. By this, I'm talking about wealthy individuals, because really somebody building a mall like you saw in the South End Mall, really that's somebody who has a lot of means. And these are probably the friends who are calling the president. They have, you know, a direct line to call him. It has always been that as long as I can get away with it. Always remember, it's not because, and Wakili is here, I can tell you, it's not because we don't have a strong penal code in this country, no. It's because people have realized, you know what, we can get away with it. Coming to the people who authorized this building, and this one I want to make it very clear to our viewers. You cannot take an illegality and wash it with somebody approving a building which you know has not actually, or was not supposed to be put where you're putting it, and then run and say, by the way, I have the approvals. That will not fly this time round. Because you know what? Look at what somebody said. There was a professor who was actually talking about this morning, and he said, the amount of money we lose in flooding in Nairobi alone runs into about 30 billion every time there is floods. All right? So, if bringing down a building worth 2 billion or whatever it is, the domino effects at the end of the day due to flooding will be much higher than bringing down that building or making it correct. I've had a funny governor saying that, oh, we leave the buildings there, we move the river. You see,
Actually, can we hear that? Can we see that? I think it was Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititi.
You didn't want to give that airtime. You didn't want to give that airtime.
Opposition to the demolitions. Can we see that?
Kama mtu ambaye amekuwa na historia ya Nairobi. Mimi Nairobi pale nimelelewa pale na nimekuwa deputy governor wa Nairobi. Mambo ingine mimi naona pale kama hiyo watu wana support ya ubomoaji, mimi hapana support. Mambo iangaliwe kama kuna nyumba yako inakaribiana na mto. Wewe uambiwe ni gharama yako kuhakikisha hiyo mtu imesonga kidogo. Lakini kubomoa nyumba is not a solution. Honestly speaking. It's such a big loss. Na tena mjue Nairobi beleni ilikuwa ni mashamba. Nairobi beleni kulikuwa na mashamba freehold. Na ndio umeona juzi ule mzee ameshikwa na drama kubwa sana, ule Mburu amewachiliwa. Kwa sababu title deed yake ni genuine. Hiyo shamba ilikuwa yake 96 acres. Watu walipiga bwembwe ati corruption saa hii hawezi shikwa kwa sababu watu wameona makaratasi ile genuine. Mimi nataka niwaambie kama zaidi pia mnapigana na corruption, wale wako wanafanya hiyo kazi kidogo, muende pole pole, mchunguze maneno sawa sawa. Hapana kimbia ati ni corruption, ati ni kubomoa manyumba ati mnabomoa manyumba, kwa sababu saa nyingine kama ilikuwa shamba ambayo imepita mto, hakukuwa na riparian, ilikuwa title deed ni ya mtu mmoja. Yule mtu alinunua hiyo plot hakupimiwa ati mpaka hapa ndio kwako. Na sasa maneno ya riparian ya 30 meters imekuja wakati wa Mishuki akiwa minister wa environment. Kwa hivyo maneno ya kubomoa nyumba za watu is so painful. Watu wameinvest a lot, Mr. Deputy President. Na mimi nataka kukuambia kwa sababu wewe una hustler ambaye umewekelea moja mawe kwa ingine na ingine mpaka ukafika pale umefika. Maneno ya ubomoaji iende pole pole. Maneno ya corruption ifanywe due diligence kwanza. Kwa sababu mtu asistakiwe kwa bure, aharibiwe jina yake bure, na iwe hakuna maneno imeangaliwa sawa sawa.
Gabriel, I'm going to ask you to pick it up from there. But Steve says whether he knows it or not, he has a legal point.
I knew Steve will come up with a legal angle. I mean, that's what he's paid to do. I knew he would come up with that. But what I'm trying to talk about is, first of all, I don't remember when Governor Itito was a deputy governor in Nairobi. That I don't remember. Yes. And that's what he's actually said. But what I'm talking about is, we cannot continue living in that kind of denial. How many lives have been lost in Huruma, in Mathare? All right? When flooding comes, listen to the tales that people have. All right? So to me, it does not wash. All right? If you know very well, and by the way, they know. And that's why I agree with somebody when he said, you cannot illegitimize a process just because you got an approval. Probably you paid for that approval. So you cannot make that process legitimate. Let me tell you something that I've also, it's not only in Nairobi alone. You heard about the report in, was it Sony? I think it was in Sony Sugar, where they were given 2.5 billion to pay farmers. And instead of doing so, all right, we're still in the realm of corruption, they ended up importing contraband sugar. You look at Busia Sugar again. What have they done? They have built on riparian land, and they are feeding into Soy River, which actually that river alone is used by so their waste is actually going into that river. How many people, if you look at the domino effects, are you affecting? And this is what we need to discuss. These are the challenges of our times. And I keep reminding people, there's something that Martin Luther once said, the fierce urgency of now. It is here. This is what we need to deal with right now. God forbid, because somebody had said, what if we would have an earthquake? That, I mean, look, that's how we need to start thinking things. I mean, we are not immune to such things. We are not immune. So what that would mean is that were we even ready for to a catastrophe like this? We saw that happening in the Dominican Republic. We saw that happening in Haiti. All right? We need to keep asking ourselves. Somebody again said, and this is a professor, an architect, said 90% of the buildings in Nairobi are not approved. All right? If you go to any other jurisdictions, and Wakili again will tell you, before you move in, there's so much things that you must successfully convince somebody entering your house that you have an occupation certificate, that what they are coming through is a safe structure, and what have you. But because somebody knows which buttons to press, which buttons to push, he has probably the president's number on speed dial. He can come and drop up names, and before you know, he's built a mall or a building in an environment that he knows purely he's encroaching. Okay. At some point, right, we have
before you
to
come
put,
in, Bessie,
we have
Steve
to put the
said
handbrake.
Waititu made a legal point.
Yes. The thing is this: democracy demands patience, and patience presupposes order, and order, as we know it, presupposes due process. Now, in principle, demolition ought to happen, but the question that Waititu is raising and legal experts are raising are due process concerns, and the government should not corner the public to abandon those concerns just because the demolitions are being shaped in the, through the public benefit lenses. No, 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 no. The thing is this: we have laws, for instance, Article 40 of the Constitution, the right to property, Article 47 on fair administrative action, Article 50 on due process. So we can isolate in this manner. For sure, land that is sitting on riparian reserve but has pending court cases, you cannot interfere, because if you interfere, if you demolish during the pendency of a matter in court, you interfere in essence with our own constitutional setup. So we need to isolate that. So you must allow due process to be concluded. In as much as we may not want, they're talking about the sense of urgency. You see, partially demolishing a building, then leaving it standing there, leaves Kenyans actually also stranded, because then the common sense question would be, so you have partially demolished that property, it is still sitting there, so how has it cured the problem of urgency? The question is this: the government needed to communicate. I think there's a question of communication which is lacking. I'm not attacking demolition in principle. I'm saying the due process concerns needed to have been satisfactorily explained to the public, not an abrupt maneuver with an explained motive, then which leaves room for pontification. That is it selective? We needed to know, first of all, how many buildings sit on riparian land. This is the list. Who did the approvals? Government agencies. This is the intended action against them. This is the notice given to the people that are property owners to demolish carefully, so that they have the opportunity to salvage some of their property. You get? You know, the government can also do what is called effective constructive demolition, which means that you declare this building closed for business. Nobody can come in. You get? It has the same effect as partially demolishing it. It basically means nobody can do business there. Okay. When you declare this building closed, you can't come in. You are given time to remove your items. They have done with Oswald Center. You get? The owners were given time, told you must demolish up to this end. As I understand, then they were given adequate notice. The point is, could Bessie come in there? Let me just maybe in a second or so. What you are saying is this: the assurances of due process, have they really been addressed? Can we say with certainty and evidence that due process concerns have been addressed before we move to demolitions? If they have been addressed, then yes. If they have not been addressed, let them be addressed exhaustively, then we move in the level of demolition, because demolition will occur anyway as a natural consequence of encroachment, as a natural consequence of irregular and illegal allocation. But let us also extend the benefit of grace, which the law calls due process, to the people that sit there, not an abrupt, maneuver, as what you're seeing now. This is shaking her head. I don't think she thinks, I guess you think they've been given enough of a grace period.
One of the things is, when we started having this demolition, it started in Athi River. And there came the same outburst. Were these people, the due process, everything. It was put there for every common Mwananchi to understand that that building has been marked, that building has been marked. So there has been information, they have been given the eviction notices, they have been informed, they have been communicated, but because of the culture we have entrenched in us of impunity, I know so and so, and I will call so and so, and they will make sure my house is removed from the marked list. So what we are seeing here is not that people are just destroying buildings. It's something that started way long time ago when the late Professor Wangari Maathai was the Assistant Minister for Environment. A case in point today is the one for Lower Kabete. Those buildings are still in court, but they have been completed because they have seen the bypass that is passing there. So they took an impunity position to start continuing their building that had stopped for over 10 years. So it's not that they were not told. So if we go and demolish those buildings, we are not destroying anything. They had been told to stop building because you're on the riparian. What Waititu has said,
in the case of Southern Mall, this was a matter that was in contention for a while.
Yes. Even the UK.
Yeah.
Even UK. Listen, let our view has captured this. And I say this with the sensitivity that it demands. First of all, there's a maxim that says everybody must be believed in their own area of expertise. And I'm telling Kenyans, as part of my duty to engage in civic education, this Nakumatt UK has existing court orders. You can't demolish it without completion of that process. The South End Mall, the lawyer there showed the media orders restraining the government or NM or whatever agents from demolishing. That doesn't mean that ultimately the building won't be demolished. Look at Article 159. It talks about there's the judicial process. We have alternative dispute resolution mechanism, including arbitration, including nothing stops government agencies from telling these property owners, listen, we will not allow you to manipulate the legal system to extend, because there's only so far you can go. Right. So let's come to a meeting. As sure as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, we'll surely demolish South End Mall. Granted, the law can only protect you up to that far. So why don't you reach an amicable settlement? Then you go and enter that as consent. But what I'm saying is disrupting the legal system because of urgent or unexplained political or maybe societal benefit. If you do that and Kenyans support it, the moment you start cornering the public to support without questioning or interrogating your decision, then also you run the risk that the government in the future, this time may be demolition, next time it can be a compulsory acquisition without due process. And there's already a dangerous precedent set. So what I'm saying is this, even up to now, it's not late. Let the government come out clearly and publish the list of the buildings that are intended to be demolished and say, these ones don't have pending court cases, we are going to demolish immediately. These ones have pending court cases, we are going to negotiate with these people out of court, telling them that, listen, even the court process must come to an end. Alternatively, let the president, because of in the principle of consultation and collaboration, the president can consult with the chief justice, it's allowed under the law, and say, listen, we are aware that Kenyans are litigious, excessively litigious. They will come to court to manipulate the justice system. So why don't you set up division, you get, to deal with this, maybe within the environmental court and land dispute court, to deal with these cases so that within a record time of 2 months or 3 months, anybody with a pending case is resolved. Then now demolition can happen. I mean, that is the kind of order that is demanded of democracy. But if you have an abrupt intervention, you may risk disrupting the order, the legal order, you get, to protect benefit.
I talked about coming there, but then I do want to move on to the other issue you introduced, which is the bitter sugar debate. Yes.
I mean, before, and I know that sugar debate is another new altogether. But you see, when we talk about, and I know that our constitution allows us, it actually gives us that, it allows everybody that, to try the best you can to manipulate the justice system. That I agree. But at the end of the day, and Wakili will again agree with me here, the Chief Justice, even himself, the two that we've had, the former and the current, have actually talked about corruption in that particular environment. So it is not something that you can also say that the haste in which judgment is disseminated will be equal. We have people who have had cases for years. I know people whose land has been encroached in and they cannot remove the people who came in. These were investors who brought in money. They cannot build, they cannot, I'm assuming they had borrowed. They are paying interest on monies that they have not used. As a matter of fact, they are going at a loss. So a quick dissemination of justice must also, for us to realize what Wakili is saying, it must go in hand with a quick dissemination of justice. Let me finalize by saying this, still on that issue. We cannot, as a nation, say we are going to develop, all right, and attain us to a platform of dealing with the challenges of the 21st century if we are still talking about years worth of something which was supposed to be done 10, 20 years ago. All right, we cannot go anywhere. And people have known that they can run to courts and corrupt a judge or corrupt a prosecutor. It's happening. I'm not speaking about things that are not happening. They are going on. So I think as much as we are talking about somebody knowing that they are doing something which is wrong, let them actually be met at the point of their reasoning. Because what they've done is, remember what I told you, they know they can get away with it. Ensure that they don't get away with it. Coming to the issue of sugar, and I know this one actually, took us last week, rather.
Yes.
You saw how, again.
Can we first hear what has been said on the issue? Yes, this is Wetangula and Kitutu Chache, Member of Parliament, Richard Onyonka, speaking on the 10,000 shilling bribes that members of Parliament are said to have taken in order to water down the sugar report.
Kama mbunge anapewa shilingi 10,000 na si Weta anasema, wabunge wenyewe wamesema waliona wenzao wakipewa shilingi 10,000 kwa bahasha ya blue.
Waizi wote Kenya, shika wote, kama ni Swazuri weka ndani, enda Kenya pipeline weka ndani, hata wabunge walikula rushwa jana, shika wao. Mimi niko bunge na wao, walikuwa wanakula rushwa. We must be accountable in this country. Imefika kiwango wa Kenya wamechoka sasa. Punde imefanya nini? Mechoka. Mbunge anapewa shilingi 10,000 jameni. 10,000. Ati ndio aende kubadilisha ripoti ya bunge.
I also want us to hear what Murkomen also had to say, that's Elgeyo Marakwet Senator, and the Senate Majority Leader had to say about these allegations that MPs took bribes, as well as Aaron Cheriot, who also sits in Senate, but he is the Kericho Senator.
Wabunge hawa, sisome hata mambo ya gazeti ati ilikuwa ni nini. In fact, I may not speak for National Assembly, but because nakaana hawa kwa corridor hapo, hata ile ripoti iliangushwa, haikuangushwa ati kusaidia ufisadi. Iliangushwa kwa sababu haikufika standards ya kupigana na ufisadi. That is the language, the message I got from my colleagues of members of National Assembly. So those who are twisting around kusema bunge iko na nini, hapana. These people are so committed in the fight against corruption that they want the best of the best to happen in Parliament so that we can make a difference. Na hata huko Senate wacha niwaambie, sisi sasa ndio hatari sana.
Kule bunge, mimi ni commissioner. Commissioner ni mtetezi wa wabunge. Kufikia sasa, mimi sijaona ripoti yoyote ambaye yaweza kusema kuwa kuna mtu yote alipewa chochote ili aweze kubadilisha ripoti. Na tena nikijiuliza, ile Kenya mimi najua, by the time mtu afike bunge, ni mtu amefanya mambo mingi sana. Sidhani mbunge ni mtu ambaye kwa 10,000 ama 20 anaweza kubadilisha mawazo. Kwa hivyo kama kuna mtu pengine alitembea na bahasha na akakutana na watu wakaichukua akisema ala kama unapeana ni sawa, lakini mimi sidhani msimamo ambao wabunge walichukua ni kwa sababu ya pesa ile ambayo walipewa. Hiyo mimi, at least to the best of my knowledge, I do not know a honorable member of Parliament who can influence by any money whatsoever, not even 10 or 20,000 shillings speaking.
Well, Cheriot seems to think that 10,000 shillings is too little money to have had any impact on the outcome of the committee's probe.
First of all, I highly disagree that no member of Parliament can be influenced by money. It seems that's all that's happening. By the way, we are not the ones reporting. They are the ones who came up with it. The same members of Parliament. They are the ones who said we saw our friends getting as little as 10,000. There were envelopes moving right and left. So the question I think we should ask are in two ways. Number one, like Wakili actually had, and this was off camera, Wakili had said, and I'll use his point, he had said, where do we go? If the people we've elected to be our moral gatekeepers cannot keep us safe from a commodity that is for human consumption. You see how dangerous we are working? These are the people we've put in there to keep us safe. Apparently, their loyalty can be bought with money. That to me is dangerous as dangerous can be. Secondly, as we point fingers at them, we must come back to us. We are the ones who put them in there. So we must question our way of putting people and leaders into those positions. Because as I mean, going just by the
Which
report...
Which is, of course, a point that Steve raised at the very top.
Yeah, going by just the report that we've seen, the way we vote, our system is seriously flawed. It is not the content and the character that we go out and vote so that this person, when he gets to parliament, can be able to present my interests. It's rather the acclamation of the majority. Just because everybody says, you're the best, how does it... I mean, and sorry to use this language, if 20,000 fools say you're clever, does that make you clever? No, you're not. So I think we need to interrogate the system that we use to put people into these leadership positions and question, what is it that drives us to put them there? Because this, as you can see, it's a serious boomerang effect.
But Steve, I'm going to take you back to the statement by Raila Odinga, and he described Parliament as the weakest link in this war on graft. Are they, in your opinion, the weakest link?
Certainly, yes, and then Raila Odinga got it right on two issues. One, the question now, as observers, they're asking, who will oversight the oversighers? It's a fact. You know, there's an African adage that says, when the crocodile comes out of the water and tells you the alligator is unwell, shall you doubt it? So it's not open to people like Senator Murkomen to weaponize ignorance and then to demoralize right-thinking Kenyans. No, it's not opening the debate as if whether there was bribery or not. It's a social issue because they admitted. Now, if you are open to bribery as a critical oversight organ, effectively, it just tells Kenyans that we are on our own. We must find an alternative pathway to creating oversight. I want to suggest to Kenyans that we can disperse oversight. You see, the report itself, what has been left completely unattended to is the weaknesses in the report in terms of design. The recommendations, out of the 16 recommendations, 9 out of 16 direct investigative agencies to conduct further investigation. Now that's very problematic, if not depressing, for two reasons. One, it shows that either Parliament is grossly ignorant about its mandate when it comes to oversight, or Parliament is involved in chaotic expansion of that mandate. Because you see, the role of Parliament in terms of oversight, if you look at Article 95, sub-Article 2, it says, in any matter concerning the public, Parliament shall inquire and pass resolution. For what purpose are they inquiring? Because directing other agencies is not within their remit. These are independent officers that, as this news of the scandals break, they also pick it up and they investigate as a matter of course. So you don't need a parliamentary committee to give us 9 recommendations telling investigative agencies to investigate further. For what need was that committee formed then? They make very eloquent and revealing observations, but their recommendations are misplaced. What Parliament must refocus and get right is this.
Okay.
Parliament's oversight role is limited to political accountability and institutional strengthening. They're supposed to locate. It's a very low threshold in terms of public confidence. If they believe that the CS Treasury, CS Agriculture, CS Trade compromise the system and they are culpable only for political accountability, and they ought to have told the president to either sack them, censor them, or take some remedial measures.
Okay.
You get? Not directing independent officers to investigate. Investigation is going on as a matter of course for criminal culpability. But the other aspect of this oversight is the institutional strengthening. Looking at the law that is governing the sugar importation, can they really say that this law does not require improvement? What is the recommendation in that report that moves us to now think that we need to strengthen the laws? There is no recommendation on legislative intervention. There is no recommendation on political responsibility. The 9 of those 16 recommendations touch on further investigation. 3 of those recommendations are common sense observations, like recall all the sugar which is contaminated. That is a common sense position, that sugar which is contaminated ought to have been recalled. So I have faulted the design of writing this report, the limitations within it, but nonetheless, overall, Parliament's conduct is very depressing, and Kenyans must now begin to look elsewhere because the oversights cannot oversight in the manner in which the law intended. Unfortunately,
we need to start bringing this conversation to a close. Doreen, I'm going to let you close it. Do you think anything will come out of the probe that the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi says they will conduct on the adversely mentioned MPs?
Okay. Before I answer that, I would want to say that our MPs, if they took money, for me, to them is shame on you. Because you cannot be called honorable and be receiving bribes of 10,000 shillings. Now, the probe they're doing is actually, we've been a society that has been culturalized to entertain drama. Yeah? What are we probing? What at the end of the day, what is this end result we want to see? For me, if this sugar that has been brought here, there's someone responsible. We can talk about the MPs being the oversight and all, but there's someone who is responsible for that sugar. Why don't we get the person responsible? There's a whole process outlined by law. There are institutions who are there, who have been put there to ensure that this sugar is not in the country. But someone somewhere is sitting on that job, and we now want to shift our focus to the bribe for the MPs and, you know, play a few games here. And that's not right.
We can continue that conversation off air a bit later and maybe on another date. That is Bessie. Thank you so much, Bessie, for your input. Thank you so much, Gabriel. And thank you, Steve. I hope to engage you guys further. I have Doreen on my mind. I think I called you Doreen. Doreen Majala is standing by with the latest update on the demolitions. Doreen?
Indeed, Olive, thank you so much from the studio. This is indeed the second week of the demolitions. The part that you're seeing here is part of the Oshol Religious Center. And then the hall that you're seeing right there is the Cultural Religious Center that is meant, or rather part of it, to be demolished. Joined with me here is committee member, Mr. Kiran Shah, ready to tell us on the entire process. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
How is the process so far?
The process is going smoothly, but with a little bit of hitch to remove the debris, the slab. It's a tough job, but we are trying to manage it as per the instructions, as we are complying with the government needs. So we are trying, and also we are also being very careful that the debris do not go into the river. So we are removing, excavating the debris from the river also for the smooth operations of the river.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, the entire process commenced on Saturday. So far, what are the challenges that you've experienced, considering that up until now they're still ongoing?
Yes, there are some challenges. Because the slab of the tunnel is over 1 feet. So to whatever vibrators machinery we bring in, it will take time. But we are trying our level best to fulfill the needs of the council or whoever, the NEMA.
Okay. Yes, Olive, that is directly from the committee member, Mr. Kiran Shah. They're saying that the process entirely, so far, everything is safe, and they're trying to dig through where it's needed. Thank you so much, Olive. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Doreen. That is Doreen there giving us the latest on the demolition at the Oshwell Center. We also have Seth Olale, who's been at the Milimani Law Courts following up the arraignment of NLC Chairman Muhammad Swazuri, his CEO, Tom Chavangi, and MD of Kenya Railways, Atanas Minor, who, and together with 6 others, for the irregular compensation of land for the Standard Gauge Railway. We also had earlier Eugene Wamalwa speaking from Treasury Building on the Standard Strategic Food Reserve, and he spoke on the issue of late payments to farmers and the fact that they will begin vetting of farmers today and hope to conclude the exercise by Friday. That's all we had for you on this edition of NTV Today. I had with me 3 guests, Bessie Kavambi, we had Gabriel with us, and we had Stephen Ogola, an advocate of the High Court. Keep it tuned for the 1 p.m. news. afternoon. It is the 13th day of August. My name is Olive Burrows and you're watching NTV at 1. We start in court where the National Lands Commission Chairman Muhammad Swazuri and 13 other co-accused, who include NLC CEO Tom Chavangi, have denied conspiring to commit an offence of corruption, namely fraud, that cost the public and the Kenya Railways Corporation a 375,000 million shillings loss. Swazuri and his co-accused face various other charges, among them breach of trust, abuse of office, neglect of official duty by a public officer, and unlawful acquisition of public property. Let us now have a look at the proceedings. Yes, we're joined now by Seth Olale, who has been covering that story from morning. Seth, what's the latest?
Thanks so much, Olive Burrows. The letters were waiting for about an hour and a half or 2 hours, to be precise, for all the correspondents to return to the ceremonial court to hear the ruling of Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, who is going to determine whether the 17 accused persons of graft will walk out of these particular premises on bail or not. And this is a determination that he said earlier on will happen after about 2.5 hours. And like you said earlier, Olive, you mentioned, it did mention that all the 16 persons led by the NLC chairman Swazuri, Professor Muhammad Swazuri, pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy to defraud the government. But apart from that, there were also other charges that were leveled against the accused, including the abuse of office, breach of trust, unlawful acquisition of public property, unlawful disposal of public property, as well as neglect of official duty. And what we know is that the prosecution led by Lillian Obuo opposed the release of the accused persons, saying that, or rather arguing that the charges are so serious and that the accused persons could abscond court if they are released by the court. However, the defense team led by Professor Tom Ojiambo, who's also a senior counsel, said that the case itself is not watertight and there is no any reason to deny the accused person's bail, and so it's now up to the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi to determine whether, or rather rule which team is going to win, either the prosecution or the defense, as to whether the accused persons will be granted bail. But earlier on, we saw all the accused persons, 17 suspects that have been lined up by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution in court, denying all the charges raised against them. And earlier on, remember that this particular court was supposed to be held in an anti-corruption court, but it was moved to a ceremonial court in terms of physical location here at the Milimani Law Courts, and that was informed by the decision of the earlier courtroom was so small, and there is a huge crowd over this particular place that turned up for that particular case hearing. And so, Olive, we'll surely get back to you on NTV at about 3 p.m. when that important ruling will be made by Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, whether or not the accused, 17 of them, will be granted cash bail or not. Olive.
Seth Olale there speaking to us from the Milimani Law Courts, where he has been covering the arraignment of the NLC chairman Muhammad Swazuri, the Kenya Railways MD Atanas Minor, and he says the 15 others who have also been charged, including the NLC CEO Tom Chavangi. They've been charged and denied the charge of irregularly or seeking to defraud the Kenyan people of 221,375,000 shillings. They've denied that charge. The prosecution has opposed the application for bail, and the magistrate will make that ruling at 3 p.m. We now join our reporter and anchor Doreen Majala for an update on the ongoing demolitions of structures built on riparian land. Doreen, what is happening there at the Oshol Center?
Thank you so much, Olive, from the studio. On my left side is the Nairobi River cutting across the tunnel, and then if you can see on my right side, the building here is said to be the Oshol Cultural Center that is said to be bordering the river or sitting right on Nairobi River. Remember that earlier on the Vice Chairman of the Oshol Center, Mr. Jinit Shah, already complied with the Nairobi County government, saying that indeed they had received the notice on the demolitions, and they had asked or requested that they be helped or had rather requested to have been allowed to cooperate with the Nairobi County government and other agencies so as to enable this entire process together. And indeed, NEMA has not so far not communicated, or through the communication spokesperson, who is Evans Nyaboti, has informed us that so far they have not exposed, or they've not told us on the areas which they're going to go next. Back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Doreen. Only yesterday we had Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu asking the government to go slow on those demolitions. Well, a 26-year-old man has been arraigned in an Eldoret court for assaulting his wife and causing her severe body injuries following domestic violence. Naftali Luzeli is accused of beating and injuring his 29-year-old expectant wife. Yes, you heard that right. Expectant wife, Valerie Masibo, who received treatment at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital and is now nursing injuries at home. Naftali appeared before Eldoret Chief Magistrate Charles Obulutsa, who ordered the suspect to be released on a 300,000 shilling bond with a surety of the same amount, or to be detained until the 20th of August when the case will be heard. The lady accused the husband of beating her up frequently, this being the 5th time. They have been married for 5 months.
This is the 5th time. The first time I persevered, the second, the third, the fourth, but this one was worse. And this is something my neighbors have been hearing about, and they decided to save me from him. And it started when he came home. When he gets drunk, he uses kuber, and then he gets mad.
That is a story from Eldoret, where the expectant Valerie Masibo is recuperating after having been assaulted by her husband. They've been married for 5 months, and this, she says, is the 5th time he's assaulted her. Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu wants the ongoing demolition stopped as they're costly. Instead, he wants the owners of buildings built on riparian land to move the rivers. Speaking in PCEA, Musa Gitao Thogoto on Sunday during a Thanksgiving service for Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah, Waititu insisted the demolitions were unfair.
Kama mtu ambaye amekuwa na historia ya Nairobi. Mimi Nairobi pale nimelelewa pale. Na nimekuwa deputy governor wa Nairobi. Mambo ingine mimi naona pale kama hiyo watu wana support ya ubomoaji, mimi hapana support. Mambo iangaliwe, kama kuna nyumba yako inakaribiana na mto, wewe uambiwe ni gharama yako kuhakikisha hiyo mtu imesonga kidogo. Lakini kubomoa nyumba is not a solution. Honestly speaking, it's such a big loss. Na tena mjue Nairobi beleni ilikuwa ni mashamba. Nairobi Tibereni kulikuwa na mashamba freehold. Na ndio umeona juzi ule mzee ameshikwa na drama kubwa sana, ule Mburu amewachiliwa kwa sababu title deed yake ni genuine. Hiyo shamba ilikuwa yake 96 acres. Watu walipiga bwembwe ati corruption saa hii hawezi shikwa kwa sababu watu wameona makaratasi ile genuine. Mimi nataka niwaambie kama zaidi pia mnapigana na corruption, wale wako wanafanya hiyo kazi kidogo, muende pole pole, mchunguze maneno sawa sawa. Hapana kimbia ati ni corruption, ati ni kubomoa manyumba ati mnabomoa manyumba, kwa sababu saa nyingine kama ilikuwa shamba ambayo imepita mto, hakukuwa na riparian, ilikuwa title deed ni ya mtu mmoja. Yule mtu alinunua hiyo plot hakupimiwa ati mpaka hapa ndio kwako. Na sasa maneno ya riparian ya 30 meters imekuja wakati wa Mishuki akiwa minister wa environment. Kwa hivyo maneno ya kubomoa nyumba za watu is so painful. Watu wameinvest a lot, Mr. Deputy President. Na mimi nataka kukuambia kwa sababu wewe una hustler ambaye umewekelea mawe kwa ingine na ingine mpaka ukafika pale umefika. Maneno ya ubomoaji iende pole pole. Maneno ya corruption ifanywe due diligence kwanza. Kwa sababu mtu asistakiwe kwa bure, aharibiwe jina yake bure, na iwe hakuna maneno imeangaliwa sawa sawa.
Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu there weighing in on the ongoing demolition exercise and asking the national government to go slow. What are your thoughts on that? Share your thoughts on @NTV Kenya Facebook or at NTV Kenya Twitter. Well, the level of malnutrition in Samburu County stands at 35%, according to a recent SMART survey undertaken by the County Department of Health. Sharon Baranga reports.
The Samburu community is predominantly a pastoral community that depends mostly on animal products. And when there is a dry spell, they lose most of their livestock, exposing children to food insecurity, says Sam Nakope, the Chief Officer of Health in the county.
The mother herself could be having food challenges, and therefore the amount of milk available for the baby may not be enough. And that's why the department and then, does a lot of health education to promote breastfeeding.
Levels of illiteracy and nomadic lifestyle in the county are also blamed on the high level of malnutrition. As of now, according to a recent SMART survey done by the county government, 35% of children in Samburu are stunted, meaning the child's height and weight does not appear to match their age. Mostly this happens within the first 1,000 days of a child.
This means that in every 10 children, at least 3 to 4 children are stunted.
Stunting, of course, affects both the cognitive, it affects the physical development, it affects the mental, it affects even the health component of the child. It is a kind of a problem, a phenomenon in the community which has multiple effects.
Nutrition is not just a health issue. It requires a collective responsibility. Ministry of Agriculture have a role to play in terms of food production, Ministry of Water in terms of provision of clean, safe water, Ministry of Education in terms of educating children.
The goal of the SMART survey was to determine the prevalence of malnutrition among children aged 6 to 59 months, pregnant and lactating mothers in Samburu County, as well as assess immunization and deworming coverage of children aged 12 to 59 months. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
As she said, that is Sharon Baranga bringing us a report from Samburu on the state of malnutrition. Staying with Samburu, Samburu County government has partnered with the Regional Pastoralist Livelihood Resilient Project under the State Department of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries to address the persistent water scarcity in the county. The project launched a borehole at Lenge Erede that will serve over 6,000 households.
The landscape reveals a difficult life characterized by the scorching sun, dust in the atmosphere and little to no water. But now those days seem to be behind them, because after a long wait, water gushed out, announcing the better days ahead.
Tunasema asante mtu maji imekuja hapa karibu.
Poteza ng'ombe mingi na mbuzi, hata kila aina ya mnyama, hata punda. Sababu punda anashota maji mpaka anakufia kwa njia.
The project was able to drill water, equip the borehole, powered by solar.
It was a sight to behold, a reason for celebration for this community in Lengerede village, Samburu County, that has suffered water scarcity and challenges that come with it for generations.
Tulikuwa tunateseka sana, watu pamoja na wanyama, tunaenda mbali sana kutafuta maji.
County officials have encouraged the community to protect the water point. The investment that cost the county 15 million shillings faces risk of equipment theft that the community should be vigilant about. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
As Charity reported, that borehole is meant to change the lives of 6,000 households. Now, a little bit earlier today, we had scenes from Mombasa at the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association meeting where chairs and bottles were thrown in protest over a 500 shilling monthly fee, in scenes reminiscent of a previous NAT meeting still in Mombasa. Well, now the Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Wilson Sossion is accusing the Teachers Service Commission of massive corruption and breach of law. Sossion says TSC is misleading Kenyans on the collective bargaining agreement and using propaganda on the looming teacher strike. He claims the commission is bribing some teachers with as little as 2,000 shillings to curb the strike, maintaining that 95% of teachers are in support of mass action to protest delocalization of teachers, performance appraisal development and unfair promotion of teachers. Sossion further claimed that delocalization of teachers is a gimmick used by corrupt individuals in TSC to transfer friends and relatives to the best schools. Sossion was speaking at Masai Technical Training Institute during the NAT annual general meeting.
To a job by God through the employer and through as we continue to discharge our duties as teachers.
Are you aware of that? The Teacher Service Commission, while we appreciate the signing of the two CBAs,
let us protect that trust jealously. To a job by God through the employer.
Do you agree with Sossion that the transfers are being used to reward friends and relatives? We'll share your thoughts on NTV Kenya, that is on Twitter and on Facebook. The government has been urged to compensate Tana River County flood victims so that they can resume their normal lives. This comes months after thousands of people were displaced from villages following heavy floods occasioned by what residents of the county claim was opening of the floodgates at Seven Forks Dams by Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen. KenGen has since denied that it was behind the flooding.
On Saturday, the Energy Committee in Parliament toured the area after Garsan MP Ali Wario moved a petition in Parliament seeking compensation for the thousands of victims who are still residing in camps 5 months after the floods. Led by the committee chairman Robert Pokese, members of the committee came face to face with the reality and vowed to push for their compensation.
Ile jambo hakuna mtu yote anapinga ni kwamba watu ya Garsen wameumia. Nyumba zao zimebomolewa. Watu wamehamia IDP camps. Si tumeziona? Hiyo ni kweli sio kweli?
Sisi kama kamati hii tutajaribu kufuatilia ili muweze kukompensetiwa. Lazima tusimame na watu wa Garsen.
According to Pokese, 52 villages were still submerged in water 5 months after the floods, and school-going children are unable to attend classes because there was no place to learn.
Kitu tunatafuta ni nani atakaramia hiyo watu. Okay? Is it KenGen ndio amesababisha hiyo? Na kama KenGen imesababisha, it take responsibility.
Ali Wario said that the emergency funds released for the floods had been exhausted and that there was nothing left for the victims.
Kitu kuwapatia watu hatuna. Kwa ajili kila kitu tumeexhaust. Sasa tunaomba serikali kupitia Ministry ya Special Program ya Devolution wamalwa. Hata hii committee ikienda iende mpatie report. Msaada zaidi inahitajika.
Garsen Central MCA Samburu, whose area was vastly affected, has blamed the government for not responding to the plea of the affected.
Sisi watu wa Kenya tunapata janga kama hii. Serikali walikuja na makopta wakati ya kuna shida wakaondoka. Tangu siku hatujaona.
Residents have also called for the relocation of the affected villages to safer grounds as a permanent solution to the floods menace.
Tunaomba jamani tusaidiwe ili tupate fidia na sisi tukae vizuri.
Serikali watuangalie ardhi mbadala. Ardhi mbadala ni wapi, ni Minjila ni wapi, lakini na sisi tukae kama watu wengine.
The MPs have vowed to move to court if the report is not adopted in Parliament so that the victims can be compensated. Nur Abdulaziz, NTV.
On to the sports news with Brian Otwal now, and let's hope Gor Mahia doesn't flood or doesn't submerge Kakamega Homeboys when they play on later this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll be following that up later on, but first we start off from Kisii County, where the Kikosta Games have started off today, and my colleague Bernard Ojwang is in Kisii to give us the latest from Kisii County. Bernard, what's up?
Well, thank you very much, Brian. We are here in Gusiland, the land of Amatoke, the land of soapstone as they call it. And what's going on here, Kisii? We have sporting activities that is inter-counties. And before I take a lot of time, I'll just invite Kisii Governor James Ongwae just to tell us what's going on here today. Welcome, His Excellency.
Thank you very much, Bernard, and thank you very much, our brother in Nairobi, Ryoki. NTV, tune in on your world. You are now watching Kisii County, the Kikoska Games, which are just starting. And we thank all the people who have come to Kisii. We have over 8,000 people here. And these games are basically, they were formerly for municipalities, but they were taken over now by county governments. They are basically games that bring us together where we share, we enjoy, and there are a number of activities. Some of them are not necessarily field activities. Activities like Ajua, like darts, and so on are not field activities.
When Governor, apart from sporting activities, is it expected that these kind of the kind of visit from these counties is going to improve the economy of this county?
Yes, it is really improving the economy of the county. We are also putting this county on the map. Yesterday, His Excellency the President was here with over 5,000 youths. Today and the whole week we are going to be here with Kenyans from all the counties. And I would say that is good for the county because it puts the county on the map and people start seeing that Kisii is actually a good place to go to. Yes.
You now have maybe the ground, a good ground in Nyanza region. What do you expect? What do you have for Shabana FC?
It's not a good ground for the Nyanza region. It's the best ground in Nyanza at the moment. I would want to tell you that we put in place a very good pitch here. We put in place a very good track. We have those two bleachers that we put there, two small pavilions. We have lights here that we have put, which makes it 24/7. We have a ball that we have put here, so the water is actually reticulated. We have underground reticulation of water in the pitch. And I think we have executive rooms, even where the President can sit in the pavilion. So I would say that we are ready for any matches, both national and international matches.
Well, thank you, Governor. Brian, that was Governor Ongwae, Kisii County Governor, speaking. They are saying that apart from sporting activities, that they are expecting this kind of event is going to improve the county's economy. And remember, it is going to be here up to 18th of next month. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Bernard from Kisii County. There will be following up with the latest in results there later on in our subsequent bulletins. But moving on, Kenyan Premier League leaders Gor Mahia will be in action this afternoon when they play Kakamega Homeboys at the Moi Stadium in Kisumu. In Sunday's KPL action, Congolese striker Yemi Mwana was the toast for visiting Bandari, who beat Tusker 1-0 at the Ruaraka grounds to consolidate second place with 48 points from 27 games and also take the unbeaten run in the KPL to 10 games. Meanwhile, Ezekiel Odera scored twice for AFC Leopards, who also beat Nakumatt 4-2 to lie third on the log with 45 points from 26 matches. Mathare United 8, Kariobangi Sharks 2-1, Wazito FC beat fellow relegation battlers Thika United 3-1, while Sony Sugar pipped Ulinzi Stars 1-0. And the battle for the coveted Super 8 Premier League crown intensified over the weekend as Team Umeme shocked title hopefuls Makadara Junior League 1-0. Eric Warutere scored the solitary goal that saw Makadara drop to second on 40 points, a point behind leaders Jericho All-Stars, who posted a 1-0 home win over Leeds United. While Makadara faltered, the same fate befell defending champions Kaongore United, who lost by a lone goal to Melta Kabiria. This as Zamalek thrashed Kayole Asubui 4-0. Masa beat Raisa 4-2, while Rongai All-Stars chalked up a morale-boosting 4-0 win over Shaurimoyo Sportif. And some tennis, men's world number 1 Rafael Nadal and women's world number 1 Simona Halep showed their class on the court to overcome up-and-coming players in the finals of the Roger Cup. Nadal ended the red-hot run of Greek upset
go anywhere. We have NTV Sasa with Jane Ngori and Salim Swale coming up with Seth Olale, who brings us the latest from the Milimani Law Courts, where the NLC chairman, CEO and MD Kenya Railways are all being arraigned. See you at 4.